In this video, I will go over using After Effects. Um, I'll just go over the basics, nothing too specific, but just a general overview of After Effects. So when you start After Effects, you get this window here. This just includes your recent projects, or if you want to make a new project, things like that. So if I were to say close this, I can still go to File, New, whoops. Jeez. File, new, and new project. And I have a new project. Um, doesn't look like it, but I have a new project now because like I hadn't think before. Um, Before I do anything else, actually, these windows, when I click on something, it gets this blue, you can see the blue box basically. So if I click down here, now this is blue, this in here, now that's blue, this, all of these things. This can all be customized. I can move this around. It's a little bit tricky, but you're able to customize this, which is both a good thing and a bad thing because for the most part, it happens often where kids will actually accidentally click and drag, and they'll move something and then they don't know what they're doing now. To fix this, just go to Window, Workspace, and then reset default, and there you go. And now I'm back to this. Up here, you do have kind of like a different view to this standard default view. So from default, I can go to standard, which kind of changes this a little bit, or to small screen. Um, I tend to stick with small screen or even default. Doesn't really matter much to me. But let me just bring in something now. So there's multiple ways in bringing in stuff into After Effects. You can go to File, Import, and then File, or you can you can you can bring in a folder, or here's my window. Here I have a couple of videos. Maybe I'll bring in this Yi video. I have two for some reason. But I'll just bring this one in. I'm going to click and drag, and there you go. Uh, so here I have my video now, and to start doing some editing, if I click on my video here, so let me bring this back. I'll do this. Now, when you import something, you want to import it to here because this is where your videos or your assets are for the project. So if I'm making like a birthday video, then all of the video taken from that birthday they'll be right here. And then I'll grab these videos. So I'll grab this Yi video, and to start working on it, I can drag it down here. When I do that, something's going to happen. And let me show you. So the video's here now, but I got this new file right here, which is a composition file. And you can also click and drag to give you more room if you need to. It applies to all of these places. Um, but anyways, so the way After Effects works is even though I have my videos here, I now have another file that's called Yi. This is a composition. Think of a composition as a video project. So let's say that I'm doing a um, think of it as let's say I'm doing a video on a birthday party. Well, I have the videos from, let's say, when uh, they're cutting the cake, and it includes everything from the happy birthday song to cutting the cake, things like that. And then I have other videos of opening the presents. Well, what if I want to have one project of them opening presents, and then another project or a completely different video of them singing happy birthday sort of thing. Well, that's where I would have all my videos in here, and then I would have a composition that just has that video. So to better explain that actually, before I do any video, I'm going to delete the video from here. So now that I deleted from here, so I'll delete it. It's not deleted up here because I still have this as an asset that I can always bring in. And I can bring it in over and over and over. So here's one. Let me select the one that's up on top. See, there's two. I can keep on bringing those videos in as many times as I want. I'm just going to delete these, and I'll actually delete this as well. So I'm going to click on that. I can delete or just click on this trash can, and there we go. So to start off, basically, I'm going to go to Composition, New Composition, and then let me bring in this window. So here's my new composition settings window. Here I can customize the what kind of a TV is this video going to be on. Is it going to be on a very vertical TV, like on a billboard sort of thing? So let's say, okay, here I have just this. And instead of it being really wide, maybe it's just going to be very tall. I can click and drag, as you can see. If I click OK, well, there's my video. And here is one part of one video, here's another part, and all that stuff. I can fill it in. Let's say, okay, well, I messed up. I don't want it to be like that. Well, I can delete this and start it all over, or I can just go to Composition. Whoops. I gotta have it selected actually. So right now, if I click inside here, inside where I have my projects, if I go to Composition, I don't have access to being able to change the settings for this video right here that I'm trying to make because it's blocked out. I need to click inside here. See, there it is. Or here. And that lets me, gives me the opportunity to then go to composition settings, and I can go back to customizing them. So here, the first thing I want to do whenever you do anything involving making a new composition, I want to call this, maybe I'll do a text intro first. So here's text, and I'm going to change my preset to an HDTV 720. I can change this to a 1080, which is down here, but 720 is fine. So always just go, when you click on preset, just go down. You have this thin white line, kind of hard to see, but go down until you see this one, and it's right below that, which is this one, HDTV 720 29.97. The 29.97 is the frame rate. If I click, I can actually type in the number I want, or click on this, and I can choose 60 FPS if I want. But this is fine. Leaving it at that would be fine. So all you have to do whenever you make a new composition, give it a name. See, it's called text now. Give it a 720 resolution. Frame rate doesn't matter, but 29.97 is fine. All these ones right here, the PAL, that's European standard. NTSC, that's North American standard, or even West standard. And then this here is a little bit on the confusing side. Let's say for some reason I want to start my video 10 seconds into the video. Well, I can change that here, but I'll just leave this as blank, as 0. For duration, let's say I'm going to make a video that's going to be 10 seconds long, I guess. So the way this works is that from left to right, this 0 here is hours, and then it has this semicolon, whatever this is called, I don't remember. And then it's minutes. So hours, minutes, these two right here, can't get it. Minutes, and then it's seconds, and then it's milliseconds. So because this is a 29.97 frame rate, for every 30 frames, because it's basically rounded off, for every 30 frames, That counts as 1 second. So I can easily just type in 10.0, and then I'm not going to press enter because it'll close this window with these settings on. I'm just going to press tab, and now I have 10 seconds. And doing that also changed my timeline down here. Think of this as the red line or your red bar from your YouTube videos or Netflix, whatever. Maybe I want 1 minute. Well, I can type in 1.0.0 tab, and this is going to change. It changed, but you don't see it because it basically, this remained, but this little tiny thin bar right here, this blue thing, came over here because now this is 10 seconds, but I still have all of this left to see. You'll see that in a bit. Let me do 5 seconds. This will be more, you'll actually see the change. So there we go. 0, 10 frames, 20 frames, 30 frames, that's 1 second. 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say, okay, I want to give myself 30 seconds. 30.0 tab, and this is still 5, but this changed. So I'll go over that right now. One last thing, if the frame rate was set to 60, then for every 60 frames, you would get 1 second. Think of a frame as a picture, basically. But we're dealing with this, so it's just 30. I'm just going to click OK. And let me zoom in. So it's controls first. I can use my mouse wheel to zoom in. I can press Z on the keyboard and click, or I can click and drag and I get this box, and whatever's inside that box, my camera will then zoom in. If I hold down Alt, I get this plus sign, and I can click to zoom out. I do this a lot. And if I hold down spacebar, I can click and drag to move not items, but I'm just moving my camera. But for the most part, once I'm done with this, I'm just going to click on this percentage value right here and change it to fit. Fit or fit up to 100% is fine. If you click 100% here, it kind of cuts stuff out sometimes, so I just go to fit. Now that I'm done with using the zoom tool, I'm just going to press V on the keyboard or click on this. This is the exact same thing as Photoshop. It is from Adobe after all. And because this is a text composition, before I do anything else, let me click on type so that it organizes everything the way I want it, which is compositions at the top and then videos below that, and then pictures or audio below that as well. So because this is a text composition, I am going to add some text. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this T right here, and I'm just going to click right there and type in After Effects, I guess. Now that I'm done typing, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to click over here because I still have the text tool selected. I need to get out of this texting mode first. So I'm going to click on this, and then I can move it around. The shortcut for this is V. So if I am editing text here, if I'm doing like whatever, typing things in, if I say, oh, well, I'm done typing, I'm just going to use this tool now, but I know that the shortcut is V, so I'm just going to type in V. Well, if you press V, you're actually typing the letter V, so you need to actually click on this icon, and there you go. You can click down here. That's another thing. The problem is you still have the text tool selected, so next time you try to move this, well, you're just going to go back to highlighting that and changing things. So you need to actually click on this to get out of this mode and then move it around. So yeah, that is very important. Next thing, now that I can move it around, here I have these things. Let's say I don't have these options. I don't have my ability to, let me close this. I don't have my ability, geez, to change the font or size and all that stuff. To do that, if you don't see it here, just go to Window, and then down here, we want to see character. There it is. The ones that have these checks are the ones that are over here on the side. So I'm going to go to character, click, and there we go. The name of this font is called Ink Free. These are fonts that I've installed on my laptop. So I do have fonts that are not available on all computers. Maybe I like that, maybe I like this. I'll keep it simple, so I'll go with that, I guess. So here I have this, and let's say I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Let me get out of there. And one thing is when I mouse over, because I have my move tool or selection tool selected, if I have something selected, I can click on the background to deselect it. You can notice that when I click on this layer is selected. When I click on this is selected as well. So that's something to take note. The other thing is, let's say I want to, okay, it's too thin. Maybe there's some bold. Here we go. So I can click on this and I can change it to these other font types relating to the same font, I mean. I kind of like it like this, just to make it easier to see. And then, okay, well, maybe it's a little too small. Well, I can go to my text size, which is right here. Um, I can click on this arrow, and there we go, something like that. I do have more options. I mean, you can't go past this from here. You would have to click on this number and then type it in, maybe 100, enter. Or you can just mouse over, and as you can see, my mouse now has these black arrows that go left to right, which means I can left click and hold and drag it to the left or to the right. Now, there's one thing that's bothering me with this text right now, and that is this little red circle. Not these red squares, but this red circle here. It's kind of hard to see. That is the center, that is the pivot point, the center of axis for this. What I mean is, let me do this. I'm going to move this. I'm going to click and drag, and I'll snap it to right here now. So it's right there. If I try to resize it now, okay, it doesn't do it now. That's fine. Usually it does, but not this time. Um, Let me go back, and I'll just put it right here again. Now what this means is, let me zoom in as well, something like that. If I were to rotate this, I'll just make it more obvious. If I'm going to rotate this, rotate is W, or you can click on this icon. So with W selected, I can now rotate this. When I rotate it, it rotates along that. So it acts as if this is the center of the text, which obviously it's not. But let's say, okay, well, I want to fix this. Well, to fix it, you got to press Y or click on this right here. It's going to be confusing, yeah. And I'm just going to click and drag, and then I'm going to hold down Control so that it snaps. See? Snaps. And I'm going to let go of my mouse, let go of Control, and that's it. So now when I rotate, I'm going to press W. Now it's rotating right there. This makes things a lot easier. Having this set anywhere else will cause problems, especially for animating. Like let's say I want to squish this, or no, let's say I was trying to maybe, let me make this bigger real quick. Let's say I was just trying to squeeze this. So there it goes like that. It's squeezed now. I can animate this later, but that's fine for now. Let me bring this back to how it was and do it again. There you go. If this is set to somewhere else, like let's say this corner, and I do that again, it does it like this, which is also helpful when you're trying to do this, um, but it's just something to be aware of. Whoops, let me go back to here. So yeah, so I tend to just fix this by going like this, and then I do any animations I need to do afterwards. Doing animations with this, you're gonna have problems if you do animations and then you realize that this is right here, and then you decide to move it back. Well, you can have some problems with that, but I'll go more in depth on that stuff later on. So this is text. There I have my text, and okay, maybe I want to change the color. I can double click on that. Oh, So to reselect your text, to change it or whatever, I can just click it once and I can do this. But if I want to type again, I could click on this and then click here, but you do run the risk of accidentally clicking somewhere else and now having another layer of text. So that's something to be, something to watch out for. You can also just double click here and there you go. Or you can just double click on the layer right here and there you go. But here I want to change the color, so I'm going to click on this white and then let me bring this in. Here we go. And let's say, okay, well, I want it to be red. There we go. And maybe I want a stroke. Well, stroke will be this one right here that has this um, red line going across. So I'm going to double click that. Maybe I could just click it once. Yeah, just click it once. And I'll give it a white color actually. I'm going to click OK. The reason why the whole thing is white now is because I can't see it, so I got to move this like that and click and drag. My stroke is actually this icon right here. So I'm going to click, drag it to the left a little bit, or to make it easier, just click, type in 1, press enter. Maybe I'll click, type in 3. That looks better actually. So I'll leave it at that. So that's what that is. If I don't like that, I can always just, with this one selected, I'm going to click on this, and now it's gone. So yeah. And then you have, now that I'm done with this, I'm just going to close this panel, and I'm going to go to paragraph, and I can left indent, center, right, all those things. And but yeah. So this is for text, and I'll just quickly animate this, I suppose. So let me do this. I'll go over this in a bit. Okay, I'll just do it now, actually. I'll just go over it now. So clicking on this. So here I have my layer, and it is just this. I'm going to click on this arrow, and you'll have something like this. You just want to go to transform, and that includes your anchor point, your position, scale, rotation, and opacity. If I just want to see opacity, well, I could just press T. I don't know why it's T, but it's T, maybe for transparency. If I want to just play with the position, well, I could just press P, P for position. If I just want to play with scale, S, and then rotation, R. Opacity is T, which is the only one that doesn't match, so that's something to take note of. But let's say, okay, I want to turn the opacity, make it invisible, and then appear, and then go away. So first I need to go over my timeline. Here's my timeline. It's from 0 to 5, but this blue line is my ruler, so wherever I click, that's where it goes. I do have more, because remember, if I go back to my settings, I added 30 seconds. Where's the rest? Well, this little bar, I can click and drag this bar, or I can mouse over to this blue little dot, click and drag that, and there's my 30 seconds. But let's say I'm only going to do a 5, maybe 4-second long animation, just this part right here, just this right here. Well, all of this space is now wasted space. I don't need to see that. I just want to focus on this. So I'm going to zoom in. Whoops. I'm going to zoom in. And I'm looking at that 4. There it is. So now I have all of this space to work with. So I can easily pinpoint the exact frame that I want. And I'm just left click and holding down. And I'm just going to move my mouse and I can do this. I do this often. Or you can just click. Wherever this blue line is, that is this right here. So if I click over here, I can see that I'm exactly 2 seconds. If I go to the 10 frame right here, I'm at 2.10 milliseconds into my timeline. Go to the 20, 2.20 milliseconds, and then go to the 3, or right before the 3 actually, I'm at 2.29. What's next? 2.30, or in this case, 30 or 3 seconds. I can also move this by 1 frame instead of clicking and dragging by going up here to where it says preview. Here's my play button. Here's my previous frame, forward frame. And if I want to go to the very beginning or the very end, if I press play, nothing happens because I didn't do anything. But I can just click on that forward frame if I wanted to, and you can see over here on the left side, right there, that number is changing. I can also click in here, type in 3.0, enter, and I am at 3 seconds. So there's multiple ways of dealing with this. But anyways, let's say, okay, I changed my mind. I don't want to have 30 seconds worth of timeline. I just want it to be 10 seconds. Well, I can just type in 10, change it to a 10, okay. And now my entire thing is 10 seconds, see, 10. I'm still going to focus on just this part. So actually, yeah, that's fine. Let's focus on that. So what I'm going to do next, there's 4. I'm just going to play with the opacity finally. And to start off, I need a keyframe. So basically, think of it as this. Opacity is this one. Here's the value, 100. If you don't see these numbers, you need to click on one of these icons, which will be this one right here. This is fine. You can leave it as however you want, but you need to have this one turned on. Whoops. Yeah, that's fine. I'll keep it simple for now. So I need to have a keyframe, and the way this works is 100% is visible. If I click and drag that, 0 is invisible. So what that means is if I want to start off invisible, as in like this, I need to keyframe it. To keyframe it, I'm going to click on this stopwatch icon. Now I clicked it. 2 things happen. 1, I get a little blue dot or a little keyframe right here. If I click it, it's blue. If I click outside, it's gray. And then I get this here. I'll go over this in a bit. But let's say, okay, I want it to be 0 for 1 second. So if this is 0 right here and 1 second is right here, what I'm going to do next is change this to another number. Now, because I turned this on, because this is on, anytime I change this value, it's going to give me a keyframe. If I go over here, because I'm on this, if I change this, now this keyframe will be updated to whatever number I change it to. But because I want this to be invisible for 1 second, or no, let me rephrase that. I want the animation of this to be invisible for 1 second. Then after 1 second, I want it to turn visible for 1 second. We'll make that 2 seconds. So for 1 second, I want this to be invisible. The beginning, the first second of the video, I want it to be invisible. So I can add another one, which would be like that. Or if I want, I can just click and then click and hold to drag it. And now it's still 1 second because this is not changing anything. So there's multiple ways of doing this. But yeah, so this is at 1 second. And then for 2 seconds, I want it to turn visible. So I'm going to go to 3 seconds now because 1 plus 2 seconds is 3. And I'm just going to click and drag. Hopefully you'll get this now because I know it was being confusing. So when I click and drag, notice this right here, this value, it's still 0, but the moment it passes this keyframe, once it passes that, it's going to turn into this number, which is a 100. So see that number change? And it's going to stop based off of whatever value this is. If it was set to maybe, for some reason it's at 99, it should be at 100. But let's say it was at 50, let's say 44. Well, it's only going to change to 44. Again, I want it to be at 100. So if we go back and press play, there you go. Pressing the shortcut for playing is spacebar. and then spacebar again to pause. And then let's say, okay, well, after that, I want it to be visible for 3 seconds because I want people to be able to read this. So 3 plus 3 is 6. I'm going to go to 6. I can, if I want to be perfect, I can click here, type in a 0, enter, and now my blue ruler is there. So now, for some reason, I have a 99. Not sure why. That's fine. Actually, let me see. Okay. Let me add this keyframe and then I'll explain that part right there. So here I am at 6, and I want this to be like this up until this point. So for 3 seconds. So I got to add another keyframe. I can do that by clicking and dragging here, just changing that number, which will give me a keyframe. Let me undo that. Or I can click on this little icon right here, this little keyframe icon, and now I have that exact same value. This should be at 100. I don't know why it keeps going back. But let's say, okay, I want to go back to this one here because this one is not at 100. See, it's not at 100. But let's say I'm being very sloppy and I just move this over here. Clearly, I'm not at that keyframe, but if I had more time, like how I did earlier, I was at 30. If my entire timeline was like this, I would have trouble seeing my keyframe, and I'll think like, okay, well, I've got to be on that keyframe now, so I'm going to change this to 100. Well, what happened is uh, I can use this to go back, or I can use this right here as well. What happened is I created 2 keyframes now. So the last thing you want to do is create 2 keyframes like this, where you didn't mean to. You actually want to, let me delete that, and actually, let me just undo this, and I'll undo it until, there we go, I'm back to 10 seconds. So I undid it until I had 10 seconds here again. So basically what I'm trying to say is when you want to go over back and change a keyframe, if you're not as good as me, I highly recommend, especially for the kids, using these arrows right here. So if I click on this one, it goes forward to the next keyframe. If I go to this one, next, or it goes backward and back one more. Because there's nothing back here, I don't have the option to go back any further. If I want to delete it, I can click it and then press delete or whatever, or just click on this. So yeah, now that I got that, here is what I have. And it's going to select that for 3 seconds. And then let's say, okay, I want to slowly fade for the remainder of my 10 seconds. So I'll click and drag all the way to the right. I'm at 9.29. It's not 10 seconds, but it's still the same thing. It doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to click and drag this to 0. So now when I go back and press play, I get something like this. And then it's going to slowly fade out like that. So yeah. And then the last thing, let's say, okay, well, here's my text intro. Now I have a video that I want to put this text on top. Well, I could, using layers, I could click and drag this video from earlier, put it down there, and because my text is on top of my video is behind, or the text is covering that video. But if I had it the other way around, well, now that my video is on top, it's covering the text. So these are layers, that's how they work, just like Photoshop. I can scale this, hold shift to scale it properly. So now when I go back and I press play, now I have all of this. But yeah, so that's just a simple intro to this. And in the next video, I'll go more in depth with the other compositions.